Okay, you're live.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Ken Ray. I'm the mayor here in the village of Sleepy Hollow. Welcome to the Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative. But thank you all for participating. I'm going to be handing this over to our facilitator, our moderator, Dr. Sophine Charles, in just a moment. Two quick things. First of all speakers will be restricted to 2 minutes. If you feel the need to make comments that are going to be longer than that, what we'll do is we'll go through everybody, once everyone's had a chance to speak, we'll come back around again if you need additional time. Also, if you would like to deliver your comments in or feel more comfortable delivering your comments in Spanish, our community liaison, Diana Loja, will be able to do so. Diana, if you could.
Hola, sí, muy buenas noches para todos los que están en esta reunión. Habla el alcalde Ken Ray, lo que nos está dejando saber las personas que se van a conectar. Vamos a tener 2 minutos para que puedan poner su opinión. Y si usted necesita dar un comentario más de 2 minutos, vamos a esperar que todos den sus comentarios y luego regresaré. Tiene que dejarnos saber a que alguien lo traduzca y con mucho gusto yo, Diana Loja, como enlace comunitario, lo voy a estar haciendo por ustedes. Okay.
Thank you, Diana.
Welcome.
And those, the folks that you see on your screen are members of the collaborative. Tonight is a listening session, and we look forward to hearing your comments. Dr. Charles, please.
Thank you, Mayor Ray. Good evening, community members and residents of Sleepy Hollow. I'm Dr. Sophine Charles, and I have the honor of hosting this town hall meeting. This is the number 5 of 6 sessions where the collaborative, we've been meeting and really doing a scan of all of the issues that are pertinent to the community residents as it relates to policing and citizen involvement and engagement in the Sleepy Hollow community. And you should know that this is an ongoing effort that will continue beyond the immediate goal. The immediate goal is to produce a report. As many of you know, Governor Cuomo has mandated that all counties and police agencies in the state of New York produce a police reform, reinvention, and reimagine report, looking specifically at improving police community relations and improving operations to ensure that the citizens' needs are met. And this is just one part of a continuous platform where members of the community, excuse me, will be able to provide feedback and inform the operations of the police department in your community. We've had a number of sessions where members of this collaborative have been actively engaged in identifying the issues that are pertinent to your community and making recommendations about how to improve and address citizens' issues. And in addition to that, have been collecting data on operations and how things are working in your community. And we're at the point tonight where we will be collecting feedback and comments directly from the citizens, as we have been in other forums as well, but this is the one where you get to put your voice in the room. And on that note, just signing on to what Mayor Ray said, each one will have a time limit of 2 minutes. And if you need to go beyond that, we will come back to you at another point. So with that, I invite you to make comments. And you can do so by raising your hand. So let me just say that I know that there are 45 participants in the room, but I am only able to see members of the collaborative.
We have 30 attendees, but I don't see anybody raising their hand, and hope they know how to do that feature on Zoom.
Okay, so I'm looking at 45 participants.
We do have someone that just raised their hand.
Okay, so I have no way of seeing that person.
His name is Darren Mitchell, and I'm going to allow him to talk.
Great.
Hello.
You're on.
Hi. I first wanted to say, as a board member of the Phillips Manor Improvement Association, I wanted to thank everybody for arranging this and making this available to the public. I think my first question is, I just was curious to know this report that you mentioned that that's kind of the mandate and sort of the precipice of doing these types of meetings. Just out of curiosity, what's the timing on that report? When is that something we expect to be able to have publicly available?
So the report is actually due April 1st. The mayor and his team, we've been working on that draft. I'll need the mayor to weigh in on the approximate time that it might be available for public inspection.
It'll be available for public inspection before the 1st, but I want to, as I've been saying in these meetings, again, reiterate that this is going to be an ongoing process, that we have viewed that April 1st date as one that's a requirement of the state, and we'll meet it by providing a submission to them. But we will be continuing to work as a collaborative at least throughout the rest of this year. So there will be updates throughout that entire time, and then we will make them public as appropriate, as it's time to pass those on. And these meetings, as we continue to meet, will also continue to be public.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. We're looking for other comments.
We have another person that raised their hand. They're coming in as a phone number, so I don't know. Can't identify them. I'm going to allow them to talk.
If they speak, they will show up on the screen.
They
So
are
that's-
on.
Okay, can you say your name, please, and your question or comment?
Good evening, Dr. Charles. It's John Stolowski from Stolowski's Automotive in Tarrytown.
Good evening.
I was
Mr.
reading the suggestions in the police reform, and I'm looking at the comments. I'm a little confused because it's geared towards the Hispanic community really hard. And I don't really understand a couple things. One is, you know, you're talking about the Hispanics and getting them involved, and they're invited to all the events as it is right now. I see that we have to hire police officers that are bilingual or speak Spanish. That's what they're saying would be a suggestion. I think maybe assisting them in learning English as a second language would be something that we should consider. Maybe put more effort into trying to get them to speak their second language, which is spoken here. Everyone talks about helping and what the needs are, but not once in all the years I've been down in Cortlandt Street every day do I see any of the people that have all these concerns. You know, my grandmother came here in 1930 and spoke only Slovak. She learned to speak English. Nobody put a Slovak officer on the police force to speak for her. What's next? Are we going to need to hire Irish officers, Italian officers? You know, I don't understand it. I hate to say it. You know, Lewis, you could shake your head. That's great. But the bottom line is we're here to talk about police reform, and I get it. I think the thing out in Minnesota with Floyd was god awful. And I support a lot of stuff that needs to be done or stuff that's being talked about, like the cameras. This way, what we could see happens is on level to the point. The other question I have is we're talking about hiring people based on, you know, we must not become biased where people are hired because of color, race, religion, or gender. One former police chief and great friend of mine, like a brother, took the opportunity to excel to chief in this police department. He became a lawyer. He became a pilot. He was a mortician. He became a master diver and didn't know how to swim. Not because of his color, but because of the drive to succeed and do better for himself.
Okay, Mr.
Okay.
Slotsky, thank you for your comments. We're
All right,
hearing
Dr.
you
Trump.
loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
No other comments at this time. There is a, take that back. Sarah would like to speak.
Great. So when you start speaking, I can see you. You'll appear on the screen before me.
Okay.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, so I want to say something about, I want police to treat blacks like whites. It's unfair and it's discrimination.
Sarah?
Oh, I'm Sarah's son, but I want to say something. I'm our son. And
Go ahead.
I'm Hispanic police because people need to understand them.
Sarah, thank you very much for your comments. How old are you? Did you cut her off?
I may have done that.
Okay.
She,
Thank you.
so you know, she couldn't come in as just voice. She had to come in as video for whatever reason.
Okay. Thank you,
For ending it,
Sarah.
I'm sorry. We have another comment.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
I can. Dana Dickey?
Yes. Hi, I've been a resident here all my life. Grew up in Sleepy Hollow, well, North Tarrytown from back then. One of my concerns is I live here on Hudson Street. And one of my major concerns, I think, as I was reading over some of the information, one of them was in regards to the traffic and speeding and all that within this area. And even with all the construction and stuff that we have going on, Hudson Street is a cut-through street. And we have children, we have elderly, and we stuff, and very rarely do I see any kind of action to kind of curtail this behavior, because people fly down the street like it's okay on a regular basis to cut through to go to the train station, wherever they're going, instead of going around the roundabout. Due to the fact that I'm here during the day because I work midnights, I see it. And it's like, it's just, to me, it's just ridiculous, because what's going to end up happening is somebody's going to get hurt, or somebody's going to get hit, or God forbid, somebody's kid or something happens, and I see no activity. I mean, I do see officers, they may be parked down by the roundabout, or even late night, sometimes they're down here at the end of the street. I don't know if it's for their friends or whoever they come in to visit. But other than that, unless they're coming out in the middle of the night to put tickets on cars for, maybe because the parking is horrible around here. So they come out in the middle of the night to put tickets, there's all kinds of other stuff. But regardless, I think something really needs to really be focused on this area. You have elderly, you've got Hispanics, you got blacks, you got whites. It's no particular, but I still think that this area needs to be more concentrated on with some kind of security or whatever needs to be done, because there's also a lot of people out because of the restaurants. So just in that aspect, I think that it should really be looked at into how people are traveling down the street, or either come to a solution where they're not to be coming down this one-way street. Oh, and then they also come up the street backwards, and there's nothing there to stop. There's no one around, or no kind, you don't ever see any officer or anybody around to stop this behavior.
Thank you, Dana.
Thank you.
captured your comment. Thank you. Would anyone else like to ask a question, make a comment? When you speak, I can see you on the screen.
No other comments at this time.
Okay, so far, we've heard from at least 4 residents, and we're open to hearing more. We've gotten a complaint regarding the traffic and speeding on Hudson Street. And there's a request for some police activity to address that condition. We've gotten a comment from Sarah, one of the young people in the community, who's requesting the police to be more respectful and nicer to Black people. We've gotten a comment from Mr. Slosky, who is concerned about a lot of the attention being given to Spanish-speaking and Hispanic people. And he'd like the village to include some programs to help that community learn to speak English. And Mr. Mitchell wanted to know the timeline regarding this report. Are there any other comments?
We do have another comment.
Great.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, this is Holly Tabacal. I live
Hi,
at
Holly.
I live at 266 Palmer. I know a lot of you. I hope you're all doing well and that you're healthy and looking forward to spring. I just want to talk about our Latino community in Sleepy Hollow. I'm lucky to know many of them, have worked with many of them. And I think they truly make our community unique. I don't see if they can communicate and get their needs met. And if our schools are educating children as they should, I say that with a question mark, then I don't see why it's anyone's business to say whether or not they should speak 1 or 2 languages. It's important for us to have more bilingual people. Chief Weddy, I want to commend you because I've really seen how much you've increased that here in the village. Anthony Giacchio, I want to commend you because I see how welcoming you guys are, again, with the village and with bilingual opportunities. So I think it's working well, and thank you for that. And that was my comment for what it's worth. Thank you.
Ali, thank you for affirming your leaders. We like affirmation and positive comments as well. Very important. Thank you. Do we have any other comments?
Not at this time.
Okay, according to my screen, I'm seeing 46 participants. There are a few questions in the 2 questions. Well, 1 question, someone wants to know if can she translate to us if someone speaks in Spanish? Yes, we do have a translator for that purpose.
Mhm.
And in the chat room, there is Char on River Street, acknowledging and appreciating the progress that's been made on the recommendations. He's wondering if there can be a concerted effort to work on many of these recommendations through trusted entities such as the Life Center, St. Teresa's, Rock of Salvation, Open Door, and the Community Food Pantry, including collecting feedback from these entities. Ms. Mayor Way.
Thank you. Deanna, if
Sí,
you,
Ya, la persona que necesita que le traduzca, por favor, con mucho gusto lo puedo traducir. I don't know who's the person looking for the translation. I'm happy to do it. I just mentioned it to raise their hand, I guess. La persona, si puede levantar su mano en la pantalla para poderle yo traducir.
So, Ms. Loha, can you
Oh, do you know the
translate?
name of?
Can you translate the comment just made by Char in the chat room?
Oh, claro. El comentario de la señora Charwell dice lo siguiente. Hola, soy la señora Charwell de la calle del River, que sería de la calle del río. Aprecio el progreso que están haciendo y las recomendaciones. I wonder if I can... Espero podríamos trabajar y hacer un esfuerzo para trabajar junto con las organizaciones como el Life Center, como la Santa Teresa, Roca de Salvación, Open Door y la comunidad de Food Pantry, la comunidad de donde dan la comida, incluyendo sus puntos de vista y sus recomendaciones. También tenemos comentarios de NY que manda saludos para otra persona. También tenemos saludos, buenas noches con todos. Estos dos comentarios que veo de parte de Church. I just translate the church message. Comment.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Loha. Just note that you come in and out while you're speaking. So there might be a connectivity issue there. Thank you.
Perfect, I'll check into that. Mhm.
Are there any other comments?
We do. We have one.
If you speak, I'll know who you are. Is that Michael?
Yeah, that's on his end. The mute.
Unmute yourself, Michael.
Okay. Unless there's anyone, if someone else wants to speak, will you let me know? In the meantime, we can continue in terms of the collaborative, making comments and feedback.
We do have someone.
Okay. Hortensia? Can you
Hello?
unmute them? Okay.
Hello?
there- Yes, Hortensia Pahan.
Yes, she's my wife. I'm Carlos Panjon.
Okay, Mr. Panjon.
I would like to have a comment and see, or ask into the village. Like years ago, every year we used to, get a group of people from the Sleepy Hollow and pick up the garbage in the streets. I don't know if this year will be done too. I would like to, me and my family would like to, we do that. And I don't know if this year will be done same thing. Because, we need to clean up the streets, and it's good to have, people from members from the city or from the town to do that. I will, help them if the village is willing to do it.
Thank you, Mr. Pahan, for volunteering and requesting assistance from the village and helping with the cleanup and scheduling and organizing.
Yes, also
I
we
could-
used to, I'm sorry, we used to put some plants, around the trees. I don't know if we are planning to do this year.
I can answer that. Yes.
When is this going to happen?
You're muted, Anthony.
Whoops. Sorry about that. First Saturday in May. We can.
First Saturday of May.
We'll
Okay,
reach out. Yep.
all right, thank you.
Thanks for your helping. It was great.
We like volunteers.
Yes, we do. We will be ready.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? So those of you who have already come forward and given comments or questions, we thank you and very much appreciate your participation. Citizen participation will be the fuel that drives this engine. So if there's anyone else who would like to make a comment, you can do so. If you don't want to speak, you can certainly write in the chat room. We'll take your comments from there as well.
We're going to try Mike Blaylock again.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Michael.
All right, can you see me?
No, we cannot. But we'd love to see you, but we'll settle for just hearing.
Well, people who know me know my face. Let me answer, let me just get an answer from the police chief on what are we doing as far as reaching out to the community on the issue of Black Lives Matter? What is coming down the pipe as far as engaging with young people of color in this village? What's going on, Chief? Do you have a plan?
So what we're doing at this point is collecting.
That was for the chief. That was for the chief.
Correct. I'm very clear on that. And
So
recapping
why
what
are
you're
you
asking
answering?
for. What you're asking for. This is a listening
Say
session.
again?
Mr. Balak, this is a listening session. We're documenting your comments, your questions, and your feedback. And I'm very clear on your question. You want to know directly from the chief what is happening in terms of addressing the issues of Black people in the community. And you specifically asked what's happening around addressing the needs of the Black Lives Matter movement. Very clear on that. There's a question in the chat room. I arrived a little late. Can someone let me know? Well, let me go back to Ms. Loha. Can you translate what just transpired between with Mr. Bullock's comments?
You want me to translate the comments of the chart?
I would like you to translate what Mr. Bullock just asked of the chief.
Sure. If you can just repeat the question one more time.
Sure. Mr. Bullock wants to know what is the chief planning to do to address issues that are pertinent to the Black Lives Matter movement, and specifically, what is he going to do to engage and address the issues of Black people in the community?
La pregunta que la persona había preguntado al oficial, al comisario de la policía es lo siguiente. Él preguntó que cuál es lo que él está haciendo, o el cargo que va a hacer especialmente en lo que ahorita le llaman Black Lives Matter, la vida de la gente morena o de color negro. Eso le está preguntando cuáles son lo que él piensa hacer o que piensa ejecutar, especialmente acá con la comunidad de aquí de Sleepy Hollow.
Thank you, Ms. Loha. In the chat room, there's one other. Can someone let me know what the goal is for the Police Reform Committee, or is it just taking questions? Is there an agenda? So at this point, this particular meeting is a town hall, a listening session to hear what the residents and community members of Sleepy Hollow We want to know what your thoughts are, what your comments are, and questions. We are recording all of this and documenting it to be addressed at a later session and also to be incorporated in the report for the governor. And I will ask, in terms of the goal for the Police Reform Committee, they will be collecting information and drafting a report based on feedback, comments, and recommendations that comes from this committee, and also incorporating feedback from the community. Can you say that, Ms. Loha?
Okay, if we can start breaking things in a piece, that would be so great, so I can count for the
Okay, I'll make it easier.
Exactly. Una de las razones de esta reunión el día de hoy es porque estamos recibiendo solamente los comentarios y sugerencias que usted tenga que hacer a la reforma policial a todos los que estamos organizando este evento. Estamos para escuchar. Hemos tenido reuniones anteriormente donde estamos poniendo nuestras opiniones y también sugerencias. Así que esta reunión solamente está abierta para el público, para sus comentarios, y estamos solamente escuchando el día de hoy.
Thank you.
You see we have another person for comment?
Okay, I think, is that Miss Edna Robinson?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay, very good. I apologize, I arrived late. I did read the email when it was sent, and it was extensive, everything that you plan to cover. I know that there's a lot that needs to be done in the village to appease some of the population's feeling about the interaction with, I don't know how to say this, with different cultures. But I would like to state that I feel that the police do an awful lot of good, especially with emergency services. When 911 is called, they respond so quickly. And I think we have to thank them for that specifically.
Anything else, Ms. Robinson?
No, not offhand.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Ms. Loa, if you could translate that. Ms. Robinson, it said two things. One is she wants to praise the police for doing a lot of great work and taking care of the emergencies and responding to 911 calls.
El comentario de la señora que está hablando primero quiere agradecerle y dejarle saber el buen trabajo que la policía está haciendo, especialmente contestando las llamadas del 911 y atendiendo a todas las emergencias.
And Ms. Robinson also mentioned that she understands that a lot needs to be done and a lot of work to address the needs of the many people in the village.
La señora Roviso también mencionó que ella entiende que hay muchas necesidades y muchas cosas que cambiar, especialmente aquí en el pueblo.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments, Ms. Robinson. I have a few questions in the chat room. Ms. Loha, if you could get ready. The first thing is in the chat room, there is a link for anyone to capture the police reform requirements as listed by the Governor Cuomo's office. There's a link if you want to go directly to see the full mandate. Ms. Loha?
Sí, en este momento en el comentario del chat hay un link donde estamos puestos, donde está toda la información del gobernador como anunciando todos los reglamentos de la reforma policial que lo pueden visitar a través de ello. Dan.
Next question in the chat room is, has there been any discussion about the possibility of working with other departments, police departments like Tarrytown on these matters?
Una de las preguntas también que tenemos en el chat dice, ¿hay alguna en referencia de si es que hay posibilidades que podamos trabajar con otras autoridades, por ejemplo, el Departamento de la Policía de Tarrytown, para discutir estos problemas que estamos teniendo?
Okay. So that person is really requesting Sleepy Hollow to collaborate with adjourning police jurisdictions as in Tarrytown.
Lo que esa persona está pidiendo básicamente es que el Departamento de la Policía de Sleepy Hollow y Tarrytown trabajen juntos.
Next question, will there be an opportunity for a public forum after this committee produces its report and recommendations?
La otra pregunta es si es que va a haber una oportunidad para el público para que haga después de esta reunión para ver los reportes y las recomendaciones y cuál sería el tiempo y cuántas reuniones públicas lo vamos a tener.
And what's the timing and how many public meetings will we have?
Bueno, traduciendo lo mismo, ¿cuál sería el tiempo y cuáles cuántas reuniones más pensamos tener?
And the mayor has already responded to that question by saying, this is just the beginning of a year-long effort to continue this community engagement that will go beyond the report.
El concejal o el alcalde del municipio ya había contestado esa pregunta. Él lo había dicho que esto es solo el comienzo de algo, que este comité y esta reforma policial va a seguir de largo.
And there's another question from Mr. Bullock, and his question is, who makes up the police reform committee?
Tenemos otra pregunta y dice, ¿quiénes son los que son parte del comité?
And this is a question that's come up before where community residents have asked regarding how committee members are selected and who are they?
Esto ya ha sido una pregunta que nos han hecho anteriormente, donde quiénes son los que forman los comités, quién está formando el comité y quiénes son estas personas que forman el comité.
Are there any other live participants who are anyone speaking or raising their hand?
Yes, we do have someone.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Marianne Hagan.
Yes.
We can hear
Hi,
you.
everybody. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. I think it's just really tragic that defund the police became a part of Black Lives Matter, because I think it's just the worst worded phrase for the goal that was intended. But I mean, I think you all agree, because it feels like Black Lives Matter and the police are mutually exclusive, and that should not be the case. But my question is about mental health calls, and I think this is one where everybody agrees. Every police officer I know and have spoken to, they don't want to go on mental health calls. They admit it's not their training. They admit they didn't go to the police academy to be trained to try to bring someone down from a psychotic break. And I'm wondering, has anything been discussed, in the group about trying out like it's been done in a few other towns and cities around the nation, trying out, you know, a mental health task force where you have, if it's a mental health call, like someone is having an enormous breakdown, they're out of their minds, right? They're off their meds. They're going to push someone onto the subway, whatever it is. And having a social worker and a psychologist be first responders, and then have the police as a backup to help if something goes horribly wrong. I'm wondering, has that been discussed?
So I just want to restate your question so that it's translated, Ms. Loha. Ms. Hagan wants to know, is there a possibility that Sleepy Hollow can put together a mental health task force with a psychologist or social worker to address mental health calls?
Una de las preguntas que la señora Heger está preguntando es que si tal vez el municipio de Sleepy Hollow puede poner tal vez un grupo de personas que sean profesionalmente para la ayuda, para las personas que como ayuda mental, psicológica.
And the other comment is regarding the statement, defund the police, and how it really was a terrible way to characterize the issues and connecting them to the Black Lives Matter movement.
Una de las otras cosas que estamos hablando es de que cómo el Estado ha puesto a la policía en un lugar que ha bajado el nivel de su carácter, digamos que, ¿cómo es que? Voy a repetir la pregunta otra vez. La pregunta fue de que cómo si es que en este momento la policía o cómo el Estado ha bajado la reputación de la policía, especialmente cuando se trata de la Black Lives Matter, que la vida de los morenos la vida de los morenos importa, eso ha afectado a la policía de una otra manera.
And the other part of her comment is that Black Lives Matter and the police, it's not mutually exclusive.
Otra cosa que ella quiere mencionar es que si la vida de la gente morena de color negra es importante y que la policía está siendo excluida.
Thank you. Another comment in the chat room. I'd like to know why we as a village have to look at large white nationalist banners hanging from Stolaski's business for months on end.
Una de las preguntas de los chajes que está preguntando es que por qué en el negocio de los chajes teníamos que tener como una letrero o una promocionando que I'm trying to read the chat. Where is the chat?
The comment is, why should villagers have to read the white nationalist banner hanging from Sawatsky's business?
Oh, que por qué la comunidad tiene que estar leyendo el letrero que está colgado afuera del negocio de Style Locus de la comunidad americana o de la nacionalidad americana.
Thank you. Are there any other live comments? Questions?
We have one.
Okay. Can you say your name? I see there's a 646 number. Can you say your name, please? You're on mute. Can you unmute yourself? Okay.
Hi, this is Zach Schusterman from Weber Park. Can you hear me now?
Yes, say your first name again.
Zach Schusterman.
Thank you, Zach.
I want I wanted to comment on the idea of expending resources to better serve our Spanish-speaking neighbors. As somebody who came to the U.S. as a child refugee and grew up in an immigrant non-English speaking household, I know firsthand what it is for families not to access resources they're entitled to, and also what it is for a community to be worried about reaching out to authorities when they need help, whether that's something having to do with crime in the police force or other abusive issues. I think our public servants, whether they're elected officials, village employees, or members of our hardworking police department, have to meet the community where it is. And if we're lucky enough to live in a community that is diverse, you have to serve that community where it is. You can't expect somebody to wait 2 or 3 or 4 years to speak English perfectly before they can access our resources and access the safety of our police department. So whatever we can do, whether that means hiring Spanish-speaking officers or getting training, Spanish training for our current police force, which I think is a great perk, we should definitely be expending those resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Ms. Oha, did you get that? Do I need to restate it?
No, yo okay. Lo que el señor está comentando, él que como viene también de una familia o de una manera como una persona que ha mirado este país, siente que la persona o el municipio sí debería seguir cogiendo gente de que hablen diferentes idiomas o diferentes, porque no tendríamos que esperar muchos años hasta que la comunidad aprenda el lenguaje inglés antes de que ellos tengan que poder utilizar los recursos que está ofreciendo aquí el municipio, en este caso la policía, que sí deberían mantener cogiendo personas bilingües, ya que no tienen que esperar los recursos o aprender el lenguaje y esperar 3 a 4 años y aprender el lenguaje antes que puedan usar esos recursos.
Thank you. So there's another comment in the chat room, question, does Sleepy Hollow Police pass hate crime complaints to the Westchester DA?
Una de las preguntas que tenemos en el grupo es que nos están preguntando si que el Departamento de Policías del Sleepy Hollow ha pasado las quejas de odio al Departamento de Condado de Westchester con el Distrito Fiscal.
The other part of that question is, what's the structure of that relationship with the recently formed task force by the Westchester DA?
Y otra pregunta que va con ello es, ¿cuál es la relación o la estructura que están teniendo ahorita con las fuerzas estabilizadas con el Departamento Fiscal del Condado de Westchester?
And in reference to hate crimes, will there be cooperation between the municipalities and the county DA?
Y la pregunta también es si es que va a haber alguna cooperación entre las municipalidades y el condado del Westchester.
Okay.
We have
Any
another person.
Thank you. Mr. Margolis, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Dr. Sophie Charles. Appreciate the service you're providing to the Police Reform Committee. Appreciate the committee and the Police Department of Sleepy Hollow. The question I had is just regarding messaging. The email that was that I had received from the Village of Sleepy Hollow, that's issued to subscribers of notifications from the village, dated a bit earlier today and yesterday. It listed the Zoom information and then it listed proposed recommendations, but it didn't provide any context for those recommendations. It didn't give an introduction or any kind of outline to say like who generated the recommendations or what would be done with the recommendations. And it didn't say what like the goals of tonight's meeting would be. So I would just like invite the village to kind of like step into the shoes of people who are receiving messages from the village and imagine what it's like on the receiving end, so that there can be more communicative information provided. Otherwise, it comes across as kind of cryptic. It's not really clear, what the direction of these recommendations is, as well as messaging about tonight. Again, what like the agenda, the goals were for tonight. The other, I'll stop there. I have one more thing I wanted to say, but I want to give Ms. Loha an opportunity to interpret.
Okay, so can you say your one more thing and then I'll recap for Ms. Loha.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Charles. The other thing I was going to say is I've been subscribed to the Village of Sleepy Hollow email notifications since July of 2020, but a couple days ago was the first notification I have ever received regarding these police reform public meetings. And I'm just wondering, is that just because this is actually the first one that's been made public, or have there been some issues with messaging the meetings? I know, Dr. Charles, you mentioned at the top of this meeting that there have been, this is like the sixth one, there have been 5 previous, so maybe those previous ones were not public and not posted to the village newsletter, the email newsletter, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Margolis. Ms. Loha, part 1 is related to communicating and providing the message regarding this particular meeting. It was not clear. Recommendations were there, but there was no context for it. So it's very easy for the person receiving the message to not fully understand what's going on because it lacks clarity.
Una de las preguntas que está haciendo acá o comentario que le está mencionando es que él ha recibido la notificación de la reunión, pero lo que no estaba claro, la comunicación estaba que estaba toda la información, pero lo que va a ver la reforma, pero no estaba el contexto claro y no podían saber qué es lo que realmente se iba a tratar la reunión, y entonces está pidiendo que por favor sean más claros.
Mr. Margolis is suggesting that it would be helpful to have an outline, to have information about the where, the how, and the what.
Lo que el señor está sugiriendo es que deberíamos tener como algo ya preparado, por ejemplo, cuándo, cómo, dónde, por qué y qué y quién.
And the notification, he's been registered since July 2020, but this is the first time he's received a notification about attending this meeting, or any meetings for that matter.
En referencia de las notificaciones, él ha estado registrado a partir desde julio de 2020 y esta es la primera vez que él ha recibido una notificación de parte del municipio, o mejor dicho, ninguna reunión, a él ninguna notificación ha recibido más que esta reunión específica, la de hoy.
Okay. Any other live comments? And just to reiterate, this is a listening session. For anyone just joining, we are capturing and documenting your questions, your feedback, and this information will be used to inform the recommendations, highlighting the issues as they are inventoried from the community to inform future work, community engagement, and certainly the report that is due on April 1st. Mr. Giacchio.
We have a person who wants to speak. Actually, you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Charles Zekas. Just a question here. When and who compiled this list? It's very concentrated around the Hispanic community. When did they become a big issue? And what initiated this impetus for this, I don't know, this long list of reform?
Ms. Loha, did you get that?
No, can you go ahead?
So Charles Zekas, I believe, is that correct? The comment is,
Yeah, go ahead.
the comment is, who compiled this list that is top heavy with concerns and items that are pertinent to the Hispanic and Latino community? Is that correct?
Yes.
Una de las
I just don't know when they became an issue. They've been here for decades and decades, never an issue until recently. I just want to know what spurred it.
Lo que él está preguntando es desde cuándo acá ha sido un problema la comunidad latina e hispana. Esto ha sido de años y desde cuándo acá eso ha sido un problema.
Thank you. Any other live comments? Thank you, Mr. Zekas.
We have a person who already spoke but wants to speak again. There's no other one.
Okay, who's that person?
Haley?
Can I speak?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just a few comments. I was looking at the proposed recommendations. I have a bunch of written comments that I'll send to you guys. But I do think I agree with Zach. I don't know him, but the person who said we need to spend our resources and meet the community where it is. You know, some of the things I wanted to just pass on my opinion is I don't think police belong in schools. I think there are other ways to ensure the safety of students. In terms of getting mental health support for police, it's not their job or their ability, or even shouldn't be on them to deal with mental health issues. I'll put it out there that if anyone needs training on dealing with autism, I head an organization that can provide that free of charge. I wanted to also ask, how is data collected to support your recommendations? I think it's good to use community organizations to reach people. You know, let's make sure that everyone has a voice, especially people who are traditionally voiceless and traditionally show up less at meetings. Not just meetings like this, but you know, everything's related: health, education, everything. And also, I just want to clarify my original comment when I said to Chief Guerri, you know, I commend you. It's because 3 years ago, we had one officer who spoke Spanish in this village, and that was really troubling. And now I see that it has improved, and it's a step in the right direction. And then the final thing I wanted to just ask is, has there been considerations to use mediators maybe in one or more of these meetings, and possibly have more transparency as to how what bases you used to get to the recommendations? I'm not saying they're good or bad one way or another. I'm just curious. And I apologize if there's things that have been said that I don't know about, so that if this is repetitive, but those were some of my comments.
Your
Thank you very
comments
much.
and your comments and feedback, Holly, is right in sync with what we are capturing here tonight. Are you ready, Ms. Loha? Do I need to give it to you in pieces again?
Sure.
Okay. So Ms. Holly is agreeing with Zach that the village should spend the resources in order to meet the needs of those who do not have the voice, whose voice is not in the room, and to meet their needs.
Uno de los comentarios que la señora Jenny está haciendo otra vez y está de acuerdo con el señor Hat o Jack es que el municipio debe poner más recursos en la comunidad, especialmente para esas personas que no tienen su voz o no se pueden expresar, o que la voz de ellos no se han escuchado.
And she thinks that the police should not be in the schools, and that there should be mental health resources gave an example of being a resource to address children with autism.
Otra cosa que ella opina es que los policías no deberían estar en una escuela y que deberíamos buscar recursos afuera, como para especialmente lo que se trata apoyo a la salud mental, por ejemplo, lo que es el autismo, eso tendríamos que ver de otra manera, de otros recursos.
And Holly is also wants to know what's the method for collecting data from the voiceless, people who are not literally in the room.
Otra cosa que ella le gustaría saber es cuáles serían el método que estamos usando para recolectar datos para las personas que no están aquí en estas reuniones.
And did the village consider using a mediator to be a part of these meetings?
Y que si el municipio consideraría tener mediadores para estos tipos de reuniones.
And there's also, Hallie concluded with the recommendation for more transparency regarding these meetings and public forum and village operations, more transparency.
Otra cosa que la señora está recomendando es que para estas reuniones debe haber más transparencia y también debe haber un foro público más disponible.
Comment from the chat room. If you're ready, Ms. Loha, I'll give it to you in parts. This is Joe Sinceriano from Tarrytown, Sleepy Hollow Human Rights Action Group.
Go ahead.
Este
chat del señor Joe Serrano de grupo de Sleepy Hollow y Tarrytown de los derechos humanos, residentes aquí, de los derechos humanos.
And he wants to know, where does this collaborative stand on civilian oversight of complaints against the police officers, a professional community responder program for mental health and other non-life-threatening calls?
A él le gustaría saber dónde está ahorita o dónde estamos en este momento en referencia de la colaboración sobre las necesidades de salud mental de las personas o de las personas que se están quejando sobre ello.
And the need for more vigorous de-escalation and anti-racist training.
Y también como más entrenamiento para antirracismo.
Okay. And so as I'm hearing and reading this, these are issues that have come up in the collaborative, and just wondering, did we have an opportunity to include all of the recommendations? Because these are recommendations that have already been addressed by the collaborative. So I'm not sure if Mr. Siriano has had an opportunity to review all of them, but these were recommendations that came out of this collaborative.
Ya estas recomendaciones que el señor Serrano está haciendo y lo ha hecho, ya hemos puesto en las reuniones anteriores. No sabemos si él ha tenido un tiempo tal vez para revisarlo anteriormente las reuniones que hemos hecho.
Any other live comments or questions coming in?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm trying to volley back and forth between the chat room and getting the live feedback.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay.
NR, we can hear you.
All right. So I'm on a break from work, so I'm just joining in now, but I'm a bit confused on the format here, so I'm just going to share a few comments. So my name is Bhavya Reddy. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a resident of Sleepy Hollow. And I've previously shared my concerns with the board about access and transparency over email and at the February 9th meeting. So tonight, I'd instead like to speak with you, my fellow neighbors, and share some surprising info I've learned. I'd first like to
sorry,
thank the
and
Black-
share What would you like to share?
Share some information I've learned.
Okay.
So I'd first like to thank the Black and other residents of color and students who provide their labor to the village, despite continuing to be tokenized. I'd also like to cite the organizers who I'll be echoing now, like Critical Resistance, Mariam Makaba, MPD 150, and more. Let's be real, this reform process centers the institution of policing and how to improve it. However, what would it look like to instead center community safety and, adding to what Alberta and more have said, prevent the need for policing in the first place? When talking about community safety, we're talking about the root of what makes us feel secure, like housing, food, knowing we belong and are heard in our own languages. To invest in community safety, we need to address the outsized costs of policing. This is even within the scope of this reform process. Page 14 of the Governor's Reform Handbook asks, quote, "Can your community reduce violence more effectively by redeploying resources from policing to other programs?" End quote. And so I'm asking that we reallocate our budget towards programs that provide true community service and listen to BIPOC students to remove the SRO. Here's why. First, policing costs us money, lots of it. We hear taxes are too high, and yet nearly a quarter of our general fund budget goes to policing. That's more than what we spend on health, community and economic assistance, home and community services, culture and recreation, and the remainder of public safety services combined. And so what are we getting for that? According to Tarrytown's chief, traffic and arrests are 3% of the work that police do. The other 97% is community service, like medical alarm calls, accidents, and welfare checks. Why are the cops the ones going out and, in his words, doing welfare checks on someone's grandma? This not only doesn't make sense, it can be deadly, as in the case of Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. of White Plains, who was murdered by cops when his medical alert necklace went off. Meanwhile, essential community programs receive little funding. Meals on Wheels got $35,900 last year, and for comparison, or from Sleepy Hollow last year, and from comparison, the median base salary for a single cop is over $116,000. How many meals could we provide, gardens could we plant, jobs could we create, and murals could we paint with the funding that goes towards an institution that we are telling you does not make us safe? And so when we talk about investing in the community instead of policing, that's not radical, that's common sense. It's also consistent with the village's own vision on page 16 of the comprehensive plan, which never mentions policing. Second, policing costs us our freedom in our schools, parks, and homes. Are we really free if we can't even sit under the stars without first strategizing about where the cops will be parked? And finally, most importantly, policing costs lives, especially Black lives. Please look up Say Their Names, Westchester County, and read of our neighbors Dan Roy Henry Jr., Kenneth Chamberlain Sr., Kamal Flowers. We're a lot more like the rest of the country than we think. The police department in Tarrytown only started in 1886. There was a time before policing, so why can't we imagine a time after it? Can't we all agree that in an ideal world, we wouldn't even need policing? So why don't we take steps now to build that world together? Thank you.
Bobby Reddy, is that the name?
It's Pavia Reddy.
Pavia Reddy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so
for that dissertation of a comment. Appreciate it. And Ms. Loha, are you ready to, can you say that back, or do I need to give it to you in pieces?
I'm gonna have to go in pieces here.
Okay, so in essence, and I am summarizing because that was a very extensive, clearly laid out comment. The first is there's a request for better access and transparency in sharing information. Ms. Loa?
Sí, lo que la señora Fabi Reddy está pidiendo es que está pidiendo que haya más transparencia y que sea más claras las cosas.
There's a major concern around the village budget being dedicated so extensively to the police and policing resources.
Una de las preocupaciones grandes que tiene, por supuesto, del municipio es que los recursos deberían estar más enfocados en la comunidad que en la policía.
And there's thinking around the reallocation of police funding to address other needed resources such as food, housing, and other programs to benefit the community.
Y que también deberíamos tener en mente o pensarlo que los fondos de la policía tal vez la podemos invertir en talleres para la comunidad, en fondos como para la comida, talleres de educación, talleres de refugio, como refugio.
And there is a concern about the number of Black lives that have been lost to police violence.
También hay una preocupación de todas las policías, todas las personas que han muerto debido a las vidas afroamericanas.
And there's an inventory of names that were in terms of lives lost by encounters with the police and an organization called Say Their Names.
Hay un inventario de nombres de personas por una organización que dice, diga sus nombres de las personas que han fallecido debido a la policía.
Thank you.
Can I have a technical moment? Just a technical. Anthony, I've been getting multiple requests from people who have made comments and then got bounced out of the meeting and are unable to get back in just to listen. And that's coming to me from several community residents, and they'd like to get back on. They've been trying for a while.
They have,
Some are still
the meeting
around.
ID number?
They were there before they made comments, so I'm assuming they must have it. But when they try to get back in, they're getting comments that say they can't come back into the meeting.
I don't know the answer to that question.
All right, so one of them was Dana Dickey, and I know she's tried it, and I see it in the chat now as well, that there's other people as well.
Try going back to the website and trying again. It's
Going back to the link and trying again.
Yes.
the other thing I could say is that it is being televised on our channel, on our PEG channel, so they can watch that way if they can't get back in.
Okay, so I'm going back to the chat room at the moment. I think we will be, just in terms of a time check, we're going to conclude at 7:30, and we'll get through as many comments as possible. Mr. Giacchio, can you capture all of the comments that are coming into the chat room by selecting and copying them? We do have a recording, but I'd like to capture all the comments by selecting all and copying, pasting them into a Word document. Can you do that? Okay.
That, yes.
Thank you. Question, can the reform push for New York State DMV to have a mandatory class on license renewal that teaches operators of vehicles in a traffic stop what to expect and how to comply? You're on mute, Ms. Loja, mute.
Got it. Una de las preguntas en el chat es que está preguntando si que parte de la reforma se puede hacer que el departamento de DMV obligue a que las personas vuelvan a poder, a ver, let me just quick read the question again, I'm sorry.
Can the reform push for New York State DMV to have a mandatory class on license renewal that teaches operators of vehicles in a traffic stop what to expect? Can the DMV provide lessons and teach operators what to expect when they're stopped?
que en la reforma policial, la nueva reforma de policía puede obligar o hacer que el Departamento del Estado de Nueva York de DMV haga clases de licencias cuando van a renovar para que les enseñen los que manejan los vehículos, especialmente en la zona de tráfico, de parar, qué es lo que hay que esperar y qué es lo que tienen que hacer.
Thank you. Any other live comments? So this is a pretty extensive comment in the chat room. And from Char, listening to these comments, he says, it strikes me that we know our own experience, but cannot imagine what it's like to live our shared village with different color skin, different languages, or different cultures.
Escuchando estos comentarios, un comentario que la señora Char menciona, escuchando esto me hace los comentarios de lo que hemos estado hablando en este momento. No puedo imaginarme lo que es vivir compartiendo con otras personas de diferente color, diferente lenguaje y de diferente cultura.
And also the police experience as well. You know, we don't know what it's like to live, you know, the experience of a police officer.
También no sabemos cuál es la experiencia de la policía vivir en un municipio como el que estamos aquí.
My experience is also that we do not have a well-integrated village where people naturally meet and explore those differences.
Mi experiencia es que creo que no tenemos un municipio integrado donde podamos, donde cumplamos todo eso y explotar y poder conocer todas esas diferencias.
If we can humanize each other, could that help us move forward as a village?
Si somos más humanitarios y podemos unirnos, podemos tal vez podemos salir adelante como municipio.
And do you know any smart ways that other villages have helped residents envision the experience of others and then to start to work together?
Tal vez si vemos si vemos otras maneras de otros municipios, eso tal vez nos ayudaría en visualizar y experimentar otras cosas que podamos trabajar juntos.
And I'm going to leave it at this last question here. Are there anyone, is anyone on the committee, Police Reform Committee, African American?
Ella va a dejarla con la última pregunta de que si alguien del comité del comité de la reforma policía es afroamericano.
Okay. And so we have about 7 minutes left to this meeting. And in just summarizing, and then I'll turn it back over to Mayor Ray, and that is that we've gotten a pretty extensive list of questions, comments, and feedback, and also perspectives. And I can say as a moderator that there are a number of different populations with different concerns and different issues. And at the same time, there is a major concern about there being a lack of transparency, a lack of those without voices in the room getting their needs met. And then we have a very strong perspective from those who think that there is no problem and that the Latino and Hispanic community have been residing here and there has never been a problem with them. And now there is a problem. There is that perspective. And then we have a perspective where people of color are not getting their needs met as well. And they're not a part of the power brokers in the village. And so that's just a really very short summation of some of the comments. And there's a strong request for there to be more diversity in this collaborative, a request for there to be more attention paid to the needs of the folks who have the least amount of power, the least amount of resources, and are in greater need of resources and attention from the police and the government of Sleepy Hollow. And I pass it over to the mayor.
Dr. Charles, sorry to interrupt. We do have one.
Well, I'm gonna take part of my time and ask Christina if you can get on. There you are. Go for it, lady. Unmute yourself.
Oh, sorry. Hi, Ken. Thank you so much for letting me speak. I just wanted, actually, I wanted to give a voice to Henrietta Brand, who had posted something I thought was very powerful in terms of some people questioning, you know, why are we paying attention to Hispanic and Black population in our community, and use the word them, like, well, they've been living here for so many years and there has never been a problem with them before. And I thought that Henrietta Brand's comment was so beautiful, and it's in the chat. So if I may give this respect and honor to Henrietta Brand, this is what she wrote. My name is Henrietta Brand. I'm 78 years old, and my family has lived and owned a home on Lower Cortlandt Street for almost 80 years. I'm a Black woman. I was here when the Lower Village was mostly Black. I just want to say that there is a clear difference in the way our area of the village is patrolled and tended to compared to the manor. That goes for other services as well. Last summer, there was a party in the parking lot of 100 college almost every night. We either don't see officers there, or we see the same three patrolling down here. Officers need to be seen and get out of their cars and interact with the community. They look uncomfortable down here. And there aren't just Hispanic families down here. We have a lot of Black families still living in the Lower Village who don't feel like they matter. Why aren't more Black residents on this panel? So I appreciate very much the time to read Henrietta's comment in the chat. Thank you so much, Ken, for deferring your time to me. Thank you. And for Henrietta.
I think I was supposed to say I yield my time to the right honorable, but that would be a bit too formal. Thank you, Christina. And I think that's a good note for us to end on, quite frankly. I just want to say a couple of quick things. As Dr. Charles said early on, we view this, the members of this collaborative, and certainly the village government and Chief Boetti, and the police department, is the beginnings of a process, not the end of a process. There is something that we need to do to comply with New York State, and we will make that happen. But we intend this to continue throughout the rest of this year. The point of this is to take a close look at our police department, and for our police department to take a close look at itself, and for us to take a close look at ourselves, and how we live together as neighbors and as colleagues, and how we can better recognize what we're doing, how we're interacting with one another, and are there ways that we can improve how we work with one another, and specifically how our police department can improve. So they can't do that unless we tell them, we being the greater village. That means we all need to participate in this process. That's why the process is going to continue as we move forward. And we look forward to identifying ways, some of which have been addressed tonight, or at least questions were raised, identifying ways that we can improve what we do as a village and what our police department does to support all of us. So I look forward to that continuing, and I look forward to continuing these public sessions as well. So thank you to everyone. Thank you to the collaborative members, and thank you for everyone who has participated tonight. And Deanna, I'm sorry if I went on too long for that, but if you could.
Una de las mensajes para hacerle más resumido que el alcalde acaba de dejar saber que esto es una reunión donde vamos a dar nuestras expectativas, dar nuestras propuestas y también, pero no es algo que ya tenemos que vamos a colaborar porque tenemos una meta, un día donde tenemos que entregar la reforma policial, pero no queda esto aquí. Hemos comenzado algo, pero vamos a ir de largo hasta poder terminar y poder crear un ambiente donde podamos estar con la comunidad. Y él agradece mucho a todas las personas que son parte del comité de la policía, todos los que han participado en el día de hoy. I can't summarize things. Trying my best.
Translation is hard work. Let's give Ms. Loa a hand for doing this. Thank you.
And we finish our time clock. I'll be getting better.
Dr. Charles, because this came up a lot, I wanted to let the residents know that we sent out a survey. It's due back by the 25th. It's in English and Spanish. We will send that out via email again, and we're also sending hard copies to various areas of the village that requested them. There is plenty of opportunity to give your input in that survey, including at the end to just write in any other comments that you want to add. So we encourage people to take that survey.
And I would just add, as I said, this is an, oh, I'm sorry, Diana.
Una cosa que el administrador del municipio quiere mencionar, ya que ha sido unas preguntas que ha venido muy a menudamente, es de que las encuestas se la ha hecho en inglés y en español. Se hemos hecho, los hablado por el link que está en inglés y en español, al igual que han sido traducidas en papel y las puedes tomar por internet. También la hemos dejado en varias organizaciones y lugares aquí en la comunidad para que las personas lo puedan llenarlo y dejarlo en el municipio y hemos entregado cajas.
And as we move forward, expect additional outreach and additional surveys.
Y a nivel que vayamos continuando con el proyecto, tengan lo que seguro que vamos a estar haciendo más, comunicando más con la comunidad y haciendo más reuniones.
Dr. Charles, thank you and so much for moderating for us.
You're welcome.
And look forward to continuing that. And once again, thank you all for participating tonight. Everybody be safe. If you're not home, get home safe and be well in these tough times. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.